Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Amaazen Outdoors. This podcast is being presented by Uplnd Outfitters, home of the relentless pants, man. Those things are awesome. I had them out this week, and I pretty much, since I started the partnership with Jason, have been wearing those pants out anytime over the summer here where I had to do any work at the farm or dog training. I've even had them on the boat a little bit. They are tough as nails. I have yet to see a pull 'em thread. I've been in some nasty briars. They really held up a lot better than I thought. I can't recommend them enough. Hunting season is around the corner. Make sure you use discount code Amaazen, and I believe Jason is still offering 20% off on the relentless pants. So pick up a pair before hunting season is upon us, and you're out in the woods with a pair of ripped up pair of pants and sweating, unnecessarily, because Jason's pants and the relentless pants are top notch and breathable, light. So you're going to want them this early season. Make sure you get them now. I also have a quick announcement. We've got another kind of temporary partnership with Chippewa River Custom Rods. Tom is going to be offering 10% off with discount code Amaazen 10. Amaazen 10, and it's all caps. If you decide to call him for a custom rod, just make sure you tell him that you heard about custom rods on Amaazen Outdoors Podcast, and he will make sure that you get hooked up with a discount. All that information for both sponsors and partners are going to be in the show notes, so please support the podcast and these great companies. They are really good partners for the podcast, and I would like to see our listeners support them as well. So look them up, Uplnd Outfitters and Chippewa River Custom Rods. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 28. I sit down with a fellow podcaster, Dave LaMere. He is the host of the Wildhuntsman Podcast. His podcast centers around the stories of the hunt. He takes an interesting approach and niche to the podcasting realm in the outdoor space. He interviews writers, artists, and people that have stories of the yesteryears. I love his approach. Great guy, great conversation. Enjoy episode 27. Awesome. Well, David LaMere, right?
That's right.
Awesome. I got the last name right. I'm usually not very good with that. So, David, well, welcome to the Amaazen Outdoors Podcast. I listened to your podcast a little bit, and I appreciate you kind of flipping roles a little bit here.
Brian, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really honored. It's an honor to be here.
So I wanted to have you on because I like your style. You've got a good podcast voice, by the way. I really enjoy listening to you more over than a few other people, but I won't go there. How'd you, where did it really kind of spark? I like your slogan where, the stories that are, written on the cave walls and things like that. And so what kind of got you into the outdoors and what brought you to the podcasting realm?
Sure. I grew up in Massachusetts, in urban and suburban Massachusetts. And for whatever reason, be it my proximity to the coast and also some pretty good freshwater fisheries, I got a passion for fishing, early on. And I was a kid, basically a feral kid, hardworking single mom, doing everything she could to keep, a nice roof over our head and food on the table. So I was left to roam, and fishing became a passion early in life. And then my grandmother moved up with an uncle into Vermont, into Hardwick, Vermont, into rural Vermont. And to visit my grandmother, I would go up there in the summers at first. And that experience really changed me, really, that seeing what was possible and what was beneficial about being in a rural environment. And an uncle introduced me to hunting and fly fishing there. And with a brief break in my teenage years for less important things, I've been crazy about hunting and fishing ever since. The podcasting came about, I think, because I'm a guy who enjoys reading. I'm a reader, and reading these stories, these old hunting books primarily, I started to feel a little bit as if I was never going to get to talk to these people that their stories meant so much to me. And with the new technology, we can start podcasts, right? You did it and I did it.
Exactly,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, and it was... The conceit is that it's about the story of the hunt. And that is what it's about, because that's an important story, right? From the beginning of our earliest history, prehistory, earliest evolution, we've been telling the story of the hunt, painting it on cave walls. We've been singing it and telling it around campfires. And it's important. It was important to us as a development, in the development of the species. It's important to us. I find it's important for me to share stories about my hunting. It's an important part of the whole experience. So, I don't know if that's a long blathering way of saying it, but that's the conceit. And part of the drive was I wanted to talk to the people that were telling interesting stories about the hunt, be they writers, authors, artists, whoever, photographers, musicians. However you tell them the story of the hunt, I'm interested in hearing it. So luckily, through technology, we're able to do that. And I capitalized on that and got very lucky with a bunch of really interesting, articulate guests.
Yeah, you actually interviewed a guest that I had on my podcast earlier this year, Edgar Castillo. He's a writer and a contributor to a number of different publications. He's a great guy. I didn't get around to listening to that episode yet, but I'm sure you enjoyed your conversation with Edgar. He's a good guy.
I sure did. Yeah, I enjoyed talking with Edgar, and I've stayed in touch. You're
gonna try to get together with him? I think he's heading out your way for one of the writing conferences.
I am. I'm also editing a second episode with him, where we continue our fascinating discussion on if Edgar and I are too old to wear ball caps anymore. If that's so, that's he's a great guest, and I hope to hunt with him coming up some rough grouse hunting in Vermont, which is right down the street from me.
Awesome. I was trying to maybe get together with him in September here, but I got really lucky. Wisconsin threw me a bone, and I ended up getting a black bear tag here. So I had to kind of can a few of my September hunting plans and focus in on one.
Yeah. How's that going? How's the prep and you're not in the season, are you? For the black bear?
Actually, so Wisconsin does a kind of a split season. When it comes to bait hunters, so we can still run hounds over in Wisconsin for bear.
Mm-hmm.
And bait hunters and hound hunters have two different start dates. And then they alternate every year. So the hound hunters get to go first this year. They actually started yesterday. And then I will start on the 15th of September.
Mm.
So I've been baiting for about a month now.
Yeah.
And in Wisconsin, that's kind of a task. They only allow 10 gallons of bait out on a bait site.
Wow.
Or at any given time.
Yeah. Yes.
And I've got like 6 or 7, maybe 8 bears coming in. So
yeah.
Don't last very long.
Yeah. How's it getting out to the bait site? Is it an arduous task for you, or can you get off a 4-wheeler and do it? Or
it's actually pretty easy. I lease some land, and I've added to that land since the landowners has had other leasees that have not decided to renew, and I stepped in and added that to my lease. So I've been up there for about 10 years now, and there's just been a massive amount of black bear in the area, and it had the property itself is kind of split by a road, a blacktop road.
Yep.
And to put a little icing on the cake and make it extremely easy for me this year, one of the properties had some storm damage, and the loggers came in this past off season.
Oh yeah, perfect.
So they blew in brand new logging roads, and
perfect.
I can pretty much drive my truck within about 100 yards of the bait site. I don't normally do that when I bait, but now I got to carry 2 buckets about 200-300 yards, depending on exactly where I park and kind of wind directions. I don't like to drive too close, although these bears around us where I'm at, they're so used to humans that it astonishes me. I had one come in about 20 minutes after I left the other day.
Wow. Hardly
he was a little guy.
Leave. Yeah.
But I've got a boar that's probably pushing 250, 300 pounds. And then a sow that doesn't have cubs that's bigger than that. I don't know how big, but the belly's not too far off the ground on that one.
Right. Yeah.
Very nocturnal though. So we'll see that they've both shown up in the daytime in the last week, but it's been not as patterned as some of the other bears.
Yeah.
But that's how they get big.
Yeah. That's excellent. What are you using for a rifle, or are you hunting archery?
So I do both. I do prefer the stick and string. Given the dynamics with where the bait site is and smaller pieces of property and a couple failed bear hunts in the past, I'm really not wanting to deal with neighbors this time. I've had whitetail incidents and stuff with my neighbors, and it just turns into a big hassle. And
of course,
my bait site is about in the middle of an 80-acre parcel. So there's a cornfield on the south side of it. So there's only going one way, and that's over to the neighbors. And I'm actually going to use a 44 mag bolt action rifle.
Oh, wow. That's great. That's an interesting round for a bolt action. You think of that as a lever gun.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. It's a Ruger 1044, I think is what it is. So it's like a 1022, but it's a bolt action.
Yeah.
I bought it for my wife a few years ago for deer hunting because it was a small, light gun.
Yeah.
Man, if somebody ever asked me to go walk anything during deer hunting, do a little deer drive for them, that's the gun I grab.
Yeah.
It's the greatest little brush gun.
Yeah, I'm older than you, so I have started to find the benefit of light firearms, and it's a game changer. When the season gets long, particularly if you haven't tagged out, when I'm dragging my carcass out there in big woods up here, especially, it's nice to have a lighter gun.
Lighter's good. There's a couple drawbacks though, depending on what your fancy is for caliber.
Yeah, there's
they do bark a little more. There's less mass there, but usually when it counts, it doesn't matter anyways.
Oh, yeah, you're not thinking about it. And there's not much kick to the 44.
It's just going to the range.
Yeah, there's not much kick to the 44 though, is there?
Surprisingly, if I put in like plinking rounds, jacketed soft point, maybe 230 grain kind of bullet.
Yeah,
there is not much kick, but I'm using bear loads, which is a 305 grain bullet, and you can definitely tell they pack those hot.
Yeah, a little more push on that one.
Little bit more push, yeah. It's not horrible. I would say it's probably like shooting a slug out of a 20 gauge.
Yeah, all right.
Which is kind of surprised. Which again caught me off guard the first time I shot it.
Yep. Yeah, particularly if you're going from the
I'm definitely used to the exactly. Whoa, where'd this come from?
Excellent. All right.
I've yet to. Yeah, I carry. I've had so many run-ins with bears on this property too, and it kind of the whole story behind it took me 5 years to get a tag, and I actually thought it was going to take 6. So, hence the plans to maybe sage grouse hunt this fall. Yeah. But my neighbors up north, they live up there and they deal with these things all the time. And they have so many issues with these bears in the gardens and bird feeders and everything else that it's almost like it's a civic duty to go control, take one out for control.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that gives credence to the idea of taking a sow, right? Where if you're actually hoping to affect the population, taking that
exactly
and male isn't going to help as much.
No, and I think in other areas where people are a little bit more concerned about populations, maybe it would be looked down upon a little bit.
Of course.
Here, I've got a sow and 2 cubs. I've got a sow that's got 2-year-old cubs, and then I've got another sow that's very large and no cubs this year. No. That's 3 sows. Yeah. One of those sows had 4 cubs a couple of years ago.
Oh my gosh.
So I mean, it's just this cycle that we have too many bears, and the guys that hunted up by me last year, they said the same thing. You got too many bears.
No, of course. Yeah, they can get thick. I have some experience on the Pennsylvania, New Jersey side of a large bear population in the Poconos, and then across the Delaware River in the New Jersey side. And it becomes problematic. And they're beautiful.
How do they hunt them out by you? Mostly bait hunting?
No. So that's right. There's no bait hunting. There's no hound hunting. So it's
the old school spot and stalk.
Well, it could be if you could spot in this, in this area, if you could see more than 100 yards anywhere. But it's, I think most of the bear, and I think particularly New York DEC, I think stated this recently, that most of the bear taken are by incidental people holding bear tags during deer season, sitting in a stand, and the bear comes by. And I think that's most of it. There could be others that are targeting bears, but very rare up here. In the Poconos, they were doing drives. There'd be 8-10 guys in a group, and they'd push the bear habitat.
Sure.
And fairly effective. Not interesting to me as a means of hunting, for bear at least. I've had great times on deer drives though, so Not judging, just never took part in one.
Yeah, I don't know that it would trip my trigger very much to go chase them that way.
No.
Although
But
a lot of people don't like sitting over bait either. That's
no, exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. My opinion on bait for any big game, for any animal, for hunting, changes every time whatever I read last or whoever I spoke to last, it changes, It's not good because it's not sporting, or it is good because it gives you the opportunity to pick an older male and the one that you want to get. And there's a lot of pluses and minuses.
just with anything in life.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you using for bait? Is that a trade secret, or can you speak about that openly?
I'm not that type of person, really.
Yeah.
It's, that type of knowledge that hopefully helps hopefully a listener go out and be successful in the woods and maybe try something different. So I look at bear hunting as, and bait specifically, you have to kind of know your bears, right? Just like anything. I mean, what are they eating in your area? Yeah. Well, by me, there's corn fields, there's soybean fields, there's oak trees. We got blueberries and raspberries. So different masts. Yeah. So acorns and hazelnuts, and there's a couple other nut variations, and then like choke cherries and I mean, hell, they find a good apple tree, they're going to go hard on that around us. Yeah. So that's kind of their mainstay by us, though. In the fall when we're hunting, the acorns all come off and the corn comes off. No. So I really, really try to have the base of my bait be as close to really what they're looking for, right? It makes the most sense if you can do it. I mean, a bear in the fall isn't looking for a jelly donut. He's out there looking for acorns. Go put on some fat for the winter, and those carbs from that jelly donut ain't gonna last too long.
No, of course.
So I use a trail mix or a nut mix as kind of my base, and then I'll add some sweets to that. This year I'm using some little licorice bites and some gummy bears, and then my secret by me is they just love cream cheese filling.
Yeah, understandable. It's good.
And it's not. I mean, it's not the base of the bait, right? But I mix it in, and then because they hit so many damn bird feeders by me, yes, I put black sunflower seeds in too, and I've tried mixing other things into that mix over the years, and I go to the bait site, and I'm not like every hunter, and that's okay. You don't have to be a nut like me. When I do something, I try to take it all in, because all those little pieces of the puzzle, when you can get it put together, it doesn't guarantee your hunt, but it sure improves your odds. Yeah. So when I go into the bait site, I look and, hey, what's left here? There's kernels of corn maybe, or there's little, licorice bites, and it's taking in those kind of what bears came in last night and what did they eat? And, hey, if I maybe weighed this up, and then having the stones too, to being able to kind of test the waters on theories that you kind of have when you're assessing those things, I think really helps. Yeah. For me, I have one of the target bears that I would like. I'm almost certain that it's the almonds in the one barrel of trail mix I have. I've got two barrels, and I kind of, they're slightly different. And one of them's very heavy on the almonds. And I swear that bear, when I bait it with that's the primary trail mix I use, that bear's there, and it's there all night long till every almond's gone.
That's great.
But so it's usually, like I said, some mast. It's kind of very mast heavy, and then some corn. I'll mix in a little bit. One of the other tricks I learned from a bear guide years ago was he used hard candy, but having some kind of so when at that bait site chewing and eating the bait. You want something that kind of cracks and crunches in their jaw, in their teeth. Because if you got a bear that's off in the distance, just laying around there waiting for, the food to show up, and all of a sudden they hear this other bear eating, and that noise, that cracking of the teeth, they'll hear that from a long ways away. And it changes the dynamics of things, because for me, I'm trying to draw out a nocturnal bear to the daytime. Yeah. So I'm trying to put just enough bait out that there's something there for her. And then now leading into this next week, I'll start drawing that back. Yeah. And so I'm trying to get her to come out before it's all gone. Mm. So it's an interesting game. This is all kind of some of the stuff that we have to deal with here in Wisconsin because of the bait restrictions. It's kind of evolved into some strategies, I guess you could say. Yeah. You cross the river into Minnesota here, and you can throw out as much stuff as you want.
Sure.
But they also, have a much shorter preseason baiting time frame.
Yeah. Do you have clashes between the houndsmen and the baiters, or the houndsmen starting at your bait pile?
No, I've never had that experience. But there's always the, it's just a lot of times it's just a different group, and I find most of the time people don't understand it. So they're, standoffish or afraid of it. Right. And then, it turns into that whole dynamic where it's one group versus another group.
Sure.
There are some controversies right now around hound hunting in Wisconsin. We did have a wolf hunt last year that went extremely successful. Yep. And a lot of that came from houndsmen.
Yeah.
So that added some dynamic. They changed some of the zoning for the bear zones. So they moved some of the dog running zones further south.
Okay.
So you can only run dogs in the northern third of the state or something like that. And so they played around with all those zones and really kind of moved some of the houndsmen into areas where they really can't run hounds because they're just small parcels. And
sure.
So I know I actually talked to a guy yesterday at the hardware store up there, and he raises plot hounds, which is kind of a specific, it's got some heritage here in Wisconsin and out east.
I got to talk with Bob Plott.
Did you really?
Him. Yeah, it's great. It's great getting to talk to that guy.
Might have to ask you for a little contact information for him.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's fascinating. He's a great storyteller too.
Yeah, those are the great ones too. So anyways, this guy raises plot hounds, and he's south of where the original line was for the zone. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, so what's going on? They get any bears down here yet?" He goes, nobody's running dogs south of Highway 8, and I kind of understand that, they don't want to get their dogs shot.
Right.
People, deer hunters around here, they'll do it. Dog runs through, and during bow season, I don't doubt it. There's a guy out there in the woods that would do it. It's unfortunate, but there are property rights, and people get really bent out of shape in Wisconsin about deer hunting. So,
yeah, it's important.
It's driven a few wedges in my own family over the years. So,
yeah.
I've hunted with a family member that will not name here, but at one point, I really truly believed he thought that most of the bucks on the property ran around with his tag specifically on them.
Oh yes, yeah. That's difficult.
It makes things just undesirable.
Yep.
Leading to me to why I have a lease and kind of went on my own, and to my family's defense, their family, you only get to pick one, right?
No, exactly right. And it's go ahead. It's important who you hunt with, right? How you enjoy that hunt and what that hunt means to you. And if they have a different philosophy on it, it's best to keep that familial relationship good and hunt somewhere else than, have a miserable time out hunting with someone who thinks of things differently than you do.
Well, and when those are family members as well, it turns into 365 days of misery, not just deer camp.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, it forced me to go out and get my own lease and kind of cut my teeth on my own and not rely on other people. And I really progressed as a hunter the most in those years.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Hindsight, I don't blame them. I just don't want to be that way.
Right. Exactly.
I've actually kind of gone the exact opposite. It's like, hey, come on up. I got great deer up here. I don't care if you shoot anything. I'll put you in my best stand.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
That's a healthier way to be. I think that to be generous like that is good for you. It's good for the people that get to hunt with you. And you're going to kill deer. You're probably going to kill some pretty good deer. So you don't have to kill every deer.
It's about creating the stories, man. It's about creating memories. And I'll be honest with you, they're not as memorable when it's just you.
Yeah.
There's nobody there to take the picture with. There's nobody there to chat with. There's nobody there to call you up next year. Hey, you remember you shot that big buck this day? Or you remember when we went grouse hunting on, it's just anytime you can take somebody with you, you kind of create a bond and you create a story. And
oh, absolutely.
The next chapter is yet to be written then.
Yeah.
It's kind of this, it's a weird thing. When I go hunting in the woods by myself or don't have anybody with me, it definitely doesn't feel the same. I can still enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it as much as if my best friend came up and he shot the big buck. And it's not as good if I'm by myself and I shot a big buck. I don't have anybody to share it with. I can send a few people pictures, but what's that?
Yeah. No, exactly right. I'm with you 100%. I'm in a wonderful situation now, where my son is coming up as a hunter and in his early teens. And, we went out for early goose the other day and I didn't bring a shotgun. I wasn't that interested. I was going to call and I got my license and everything and, set out the decoys and try and teach the lessons, but it wasn't that important to me if I shot one, but I did want him to get a chance. It was just wonderful. It was a great day.
Yeah, one of my first guests on the podcast was I don't know if he retired or just left, but he used to work for Rough Grouse Society.
Yeah.
And he I do a little guiding, both upland bird hunting, and then I also do I have a drift boat and I fly fish for muskies. So we had a whole other thing to talk about. I didn't know you were a fly fisherman. So
I'm not that level and of fly fisherman or crazy, because that's a lot of casting to get a muskie. That's next level.
That's what everybody says. And I've had many people on my boat where they haven't even hit the 100 mark yet, and we've got a muskie in the net. But
all right,
they kind of choose you. Right? That's just how there's nothing too magical about it. It's just the muskie's going to eat, and it's going to choose to eat your fly or your bait when it wants to, and you happen to be in the right place at the right time. That's it.
Yeah.
There's some moon phase stuff to it. They do go and feed a little bit in the fall more than they do in the summer and spring, but they just kind of choose you. Sure. But it's more of a masochist kind of thing, man. It's more of a pain thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of, like with the podcast and just kind of how I'm adventurous in life. That was kind of like the pinnacle of fly fishing for me, that I could do out my back door and just have the biggest challenge to try to accomplish something that isn't very easy to do.
No, of course. I haven't spent a lot of time with my fly rod. I think the most casting I've done is out in my front yard, swapping out dry rotted backing. I've been in the thick of it with the kids, and we moved quite a bit for a few years. Different place, different jobs, different job sites, same job, different job sites, and so
sure.
Now
it's tough with kids to.
It's impossible. Because you're the guide, right?
Yep.
So I'm helping them, put them on fish, but I'm maybe 20 minutes away from the bat and kill right now, and that's a storied trout fishery, and I grew up reading about it, so I'm going to take advantage a lot more than I have been, particularly now the kids are getting older.
Well, and if you can get the son out goose hunting, I'm sure you can get him out trout fishing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly right. Exactly right.
How is that the fishery out there for trout still? And it historically been fantastic, but there's a lot of people out there.
Yeah, too many, and the bat and kills love to death. The Vermont side of it still has some real nice runs. The New York side of it still has some decent runs, but it's all brown trout fishery now because they're hardy and you can put them there. And I went on the Bat and Kill River. I was watching some resident geese fly into an area, and somebody told me, go up by Bat and Kill State Forest. And I went up there and watched some resident geese flying at dusk and brought my son out to scout on a weekend day in the summertime. And we couldn't find a place to park for all the people tubing. It was amazing. It was an amazing hatch of people and their beer and their inflatable tubes just floating down the river. So that would be difficult.
We have a little bit of that going on up here too, and I kind of cut my teeth fly fishing for trout, and some of the historic kind of Wisconsin rivers. I think the Kinnickinnick has been written about, probably the Rush River and the Kickapoo, and just kind of historic stuff that Ernest Hemingway kind of fished, and Timber Coulee I've fished, and that driftless area in Wisconsin, which is just gorgeous. It's a bunch of bluffs and hadn't been touched by the last ice age, so it's kind of ancient landscape per se. And it's the kayak hatch is really ruined to a certain degree some of these really nice rivers that you could just go out and fish. And when I first started fly fishing out here, you were willing to hike a little bit. You didn't really have to see anybody. And now about 10:30, it's you hear the hoot and hollering in the summertime with the kids coming down in the tubes and kayaks and stuff. And they have a right to enjoy the river. And
exactly.
It again, there's give and take and benefits and pros and cons. Forced me to go find some new brook trout haunts that I found. Which are awesome.
I think for here, I think there'll be early spring as soon as the water's clear enough, and then late fall, I think, is the time to fish the bat and kill. But we also have storied brook trout water in the Adirondacks that we have ponds where brook trout have evolved specifically in that pond. And it's an amazing fishery, and you do have to hike to get in there. And you will encounter people on the trails now because the Adirondacks, 6 million acres protected, 2 million of wilderness. But it's close enough to so many metro areas that the trails get used quite a bit. So anyways, but you can hike back in there and fish and do some amazing fishing.
I think I have 2 dogs freaking out upstairs. I'm a bachelor in it tonight. My wife does overnight care, and my daughter works a later shift tonight. So the dogs are upstairs by themselves, and I'm down in the basement. I have a small little kind of corner office / studio, and I can barely hear anything up there, but I think they just went ape crap. We'll leave it at that.
Right.
One of the neighbors must have fired up the barbecue.
There you go. What are they, bird dogs?
Yes, they are. They have two German short-haired pointers.
Oh, yeah. Excellent.
They're sisters, just from different litters. So same Surrendame.
Do they gang up against you, as they say? If you get siblings, that they'll sometimes be less cooperative. Have you found that to be true?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, they definitely. I've got 2 stepkids, and the oldest moved out officially after college last year, and even before then, though. But regardless, him and I were the only testosterone in the house. Sure. And my wife even noticed it, and she said it to me before I brought it up. It's just kind of something, with my wife, I didn't want to offend her or make her feel like the dogs weren't giving her any, as much attention, but they compete over my attention more than anybody else. And they do with my stepson too, when he's home. But, they're the little one is definitely, she's just I don't know. My oldest dog is this big, loving, compassionate, understands words and feelings of humans. And, I don't know. She just, somebody yells around the house, she knows it, and my other dog, you could yell at her. You could, she doesn't, if she wants it, she's going to get it. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Which is a good trait to have for a hunting dog. Very determined. But she's very much like almost like a male dog in a sense, in the way she acts. And so, that whole dynamic there, it
makes life interesting, right?
It does. I told my wife, I think the next one I'm going to get a male, and we're going to get it from, I'm going to get a pointer, an English pointer. And she goes, well, why male dogs are so hard? I go, you want to deal with, I got to deal with 2 sisters every day.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're good hunting dogs. I do find, because they are sisters and they live together, and, they're house dogs first. Sure. Hunting season's so short,
of course,
in comparison to the rest of the year. So they do the same thing they do with me out in the field. They compete, and they compete too hard. So I do have to run them kind of separately for the most part.
No. Yeah.
It's always nice to have a recharged dog, though.
That's good. It's good to have some dog power. I have one dog.
I wanted to talk about your dog. You have a very unique breed.
Yeah, I sure do. Yeah, and I think a unique individual within the breed. She is a hard charger. She's a West Siberian Laika named Altai, and female dominant traits, but just a hard charger. Just so much go, so much prey drive. It's a challenge in the house, certainly, and I'm living in suburbia. So I have this primitive, northern Spitz breed dog that just wants to go and get everything. It's it's a little bit of a challenge. I was when I first brought her back, bought her from a zoologist, Russian zoologist, Vladimir Beregovoy. I'm probably butchering his name, but he's very famous for his work getting the Laika breeds out of Russia and out of Siberia, and getting them to hunters and super active people. And when I got Altai up here, I was walking her, and one of my neighbors sitting on the porch, in the cul-de-sac type of neighborhood, suburban America, looks down and says, "Is that a dog?" Well, it's a puppy. No. Okay, but it's a dog, though, right? Yes, it's a dog. Because, it's got the sharp muzzle and the pointy ears and gray and black and, could be easily mistaken for a coyote.
Sure. Yeah, no, and they're, how big is your dog?
Oh, she's small even for the breed. She's a small female, so she's just under 40 pounds.
Okay.
As of the other day.
Yeah, and the males, I think, get up towards 80, don't they?
They can.
Yeah.
It's not standard for them to be that heavy, but, a 60-pound male wouldn't be unreasonable. And because of their energy and because of their primitive nature, it's the same with, every coyote hunter thinks they've shot a 45-pound coyote and they've shot a 30-pound coyote. It's that same, everyone thinks she's bigger than she is.
Oh, yeah.
Just because
like bear
of how she
hunting.
looks. Well, like anything wild and a little different, looks bigger in person.
Well, and too, I find that animals that they don't have defining traits, and you look at the difference in my two dogs are very close in weight, but they're built different. One's a lot taller and skinnier, and the other one's a wider and shorter. And but the variation between that is visibly it's different. And then you throw, even like a bear, you can't see 100-pound difference in a bear really, unless you can see very minute details. And it's not like a whitetail. Oh, there's 10 points. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, weight wise, he's as heavy as an 8-pointer. So if you took off the horns, it's really hard to really judge how big animals are, regardless of dog or cat or whitetail.
That's a
or bear.
real skill set. Very few people are good at that. I've been around wildlife biologists who will just say, I don't know how heavy that thing is. I can't tell you. And they've worked in the field for, 10, 20 years. And I think, we as hunters...
He's just the honest one, man.
He's the honest one, yeah. And, I think that we as hunters like to think that we know, we can judge better than we can. And certainly with white-tailed deer, that's become such a science, the way they've put point systems on and everything, that there are people who can certainly field judge antlers really well.
Oh yeah.
And there's hunters that live and die by whatever species they're hunting, and they can judge fairly well. But it's a guess.
Guy I cut my teeth with, bear. He was a friend of my mom's, and when I was in high school and then in college, I'd help him out running bear baits in the summer, and he could judge within 25 pounds on the foot how big that bear was, and he was good. But he lived and died by it. 250 pound bear, got him a trophy fee.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the extra $1,000, you better know how big that bear is.
That's a great incentive to be a good field judge, that sort of thing.
Well, and after, 50 years of doing it too, you do learn something.
Yeah. I'd watched a bobcat for a while in the Poconos, just as part of my being in the field. I wasn't hunting the bobcat, but we're occupying the same ground. And then I spoke to a trapper who had taken the bobcat, and he said, yeah, it weighed 40 pounds. And I'm like, no, it definitely did not. And then he's like, you want to see it? And he hadn't done anything with it yet. I'm like, I do want to see it. And we drove over to his house, and he wasn't lying. It was 40 on the nose. And
wow.
Because I don't think of bobcats being 40 pounds. It never would have occurred to me. I always looked at it and said, there's a big bobcat. That must go, 30 pounds, something like that. But, it was dense. It was a dense male that was just built like a tank.
I actually just interviewed a guy, Houndsman, and he does bobcat up in Wisconsin in the fall, and wintertime, I think, is actually when the season is. But yeah, he was telling me that they get them up to 40 pounds, and I was just astonished that, like you said, you look at it, maybe 20.
yeah, exactly. You think that's going to be, a slightly enlarged house cat type of thing, but no. This dog, Altai, she's pretty proficient at it. She will not suffer a cat to live, and I can't call her off of bobcat up here, so I have to go up and put her on lead and drag her off while she's...
Is that what they primarily do is tree and bay dog, like a tree and bay dog?
Yeah, they're tree and bay dogs, so they're used in the Hanti and the Mansi cultures. They were used for everything from brown bear to everything. Any of the large deer species, there's still people using Laika on moose. And yeah, for a big animal that doesn't tree, they'll bay it. And for a small animal, I use her for hunting squirrel up here. They tree bark. They get up there and let the world know. So with a very chopping, carrying bark.
How does that work? You just kind of let her run, and then she runs up there and barks at these squirrels, and do they kind of just hold up there for you?
No, so depending, they'll do some tree topping sometimes, and she'll follow them tree to tree.
Really?
Yeah. Sometimes they'll, the big gray squirrels will sometimes lay flat on a branch.
Yep.
And think that you can't see him, and you'll just see the tail flicking. That'll happen. But yeah, it's all sorts of reactions. The bobcat that she's treed, they don't want to run for any distance. They're just looking for the closest tree to get up. So I know that I've had them in a small tree where I'm like, oh, please don't come down. Please don't fall out of that tree while I'm getting because I don't hunt bobcat, and nothing against it. I just never targeted the species. I don't know how they taste. I've never, maybe if I had a wonderful meal with bobcat, I'd be more apt to do it, but I don't hunt them, so she hunts them. so I talked about cooperation earlier. We were talking about with your dogs. This breed of dog has very little cooperation bred into it as it came up. It wasn't meant to take orders or to listen to commands. And it was just to run out and find the animal and bark at it. So I'm not going to break her from hunting bobcats. That I could spend the rest of her life doing it, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's too funny. I don't know anybody who owns one. I've heard a few. I've actually read an article about one not too terribly long ago, and it really intrigued me.
Yeah, it's intriguing, and for the time, and she's a wonderful dog. I started out training her as if she were a Labrador or golden retriever, and tried that, and that was absolutely useless. And she was dominant and emotional at the same time, so soft and hard, and just a real puzzle. And what I ended up doing was I brought her through a gentling procedure that folks will do with aggressive dog breeds, and she's not aggressive toward people or other dogs, but she's just so headstrong and so dominant that she wasn't interested in my opinion at all until I went through the gentling. And let me tell you, I was embarrassed when I was alone with the dog doing the gentling stuff, because it was carrying the puppy around for long stretches of time and talking baby talk. And I don't know what to say to a dog at baby talk. That was not a natural instinct for me. And for the first, couple of days, she looked at me like I was insane, and then started to work, and she started that bond And now she's still highly emotional, still pretty dominant, but she'll listen to me now. And we're worked out all right. I wouldn't recommend the breed for most folks. Just takes a lot of work, a lot of patience.
There's not many breeds of dogs that I would recommend for anybody, to be honest with you. There's so much variation, and you can get a dog that works at your pace and can fulfill what it duty is that you want it to fulfill for you. That, you want my opinion about, short hairs? I give you a firsthand opinion about them, but I'm not going to tell you they're the right dog for you. I see a lot of people that have hunting dogs and don't ever hunt. And I'm not afraid to say this. I feel really bad for the dog.
Absolutely. It's
not fulfilling its destiny, and what it was really bred to do and what it wants to do. So, that's a tough spot for me.
No, of course. I agree with you. But what I would recommend for most people living modern lifestyles is finding a dog, be that the breed or the specific dog, with an off switch that dog can find fulfillment in being around the family and being in the home as well. Because it took a long time for this dog to do that. She has now, and she's 5 now. She has over the last couple of years. But she just wanted to go. And there's something great about going out into the Adirondacks, right, into these vast stretches of northern woods. And it's a beautiful landscape. And when you put Altai on the ground, she's in her element. She is 100% locked into what she's doing. And I've likened it to, it's like lighting the fuse on the bomb, and then it just goes. And it's amazing to see, but most people would have a real hard time having dealt with this dog as a house pet as well. Just a lot of challenges. My neighbors will tell you. I can get them on right now.
I can speak from firsthand experience with that. My youngest one does not have a very good off switch. It's something that's finally come on with age, but when she was a puppy, if there wasn't a bird in front of her, she was going to find something to do with herself, and it wasn't going to be good. Yeah. It's tough. It's worth it, right? It's hunting with a dog is something special, like hunting with a friend, or for me, the kids is special. But there's also something that it seems right on a very basic level to be out there hunting with dogs and watching them work. It's for me. You touched on it, kind of that specialness in it. It's one thing to hunt with a buddy or even your kids, like, you can communicate to them, but the culmination of all that really verbal communication and training that kind of highlights and comes to light during the hunt with a dog is really something I can't duplicate anywhere else. It's extremely special for me. It's why I've chose part of it to be hopefully a long-term career path for me. Yeah. That sounds like a good career path. I really enjoy watching my dogs work for other people, because that's when I know that I've done my job as a handler. Yeah. And I'm not a very good handler sometimes. So no, of course. We all have a learning curve with dogs, and you had try a couple different things, it sounds like, with your dog, and that's a lesson learned for a lot of people, I think. Trying the same old tricks. You hear a lot of these old guys that, the fishing's not as good as it used to be. Well, that old MEPS number 5 doesn't work like it used to, but I can probably find something that works pretty close to how it used to work for you.
Right. Yeah.
Things change, and you got to adapt and kind of overcome. And a lot of that with dog handling is it's different with every dog. There's kind of basic building blocks, but in your scenario, you probably had to throw the whole book out.
I did. I went through quite a few books and quite a few videos trying to find what would work, and finally, stumbled upon the gentling, which is a big leap forward, and then, coming up with our language that she's going to listen to, and, trying to find tricks. If they're not food driven, how do you bribe them, that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's been a journey. It's been good.
So what do you got going on this fall? Doing any fun hunts?
Fall, I hope so. Like this fall, I'm focusing on waterfowl in sort of, as I mentioned, we moved around in different states and different localities and stuff, and I'm really trying to nail down what waterfowling is at its best in this area of the Atlantic Flyway. And I'm really enjoying finding these spots that are, known by all the locals, but new to me. And I'm hoping to spend a lot of time in a duck blind this year. Altai and I will run around the Adirondacks chasing after squirrel, as we do, and she's bound to get a few more bobcat treed. It's she really wants me to shoot one of those bobcats one day. I can tell you that right now. She gives me that look.
You might just have to find out how they taste.
Have you heard anything?
I haven't.
Have you heard of anyone ever eating a bobcat?
No, I haven't. And now that we're kind of talking about this tonight, I'm kind of kicking myself in the butt for not asking Dave, the guy I had on the podcast last week, who's a hound.
Oh, yeah.
He guides did guide for him at one point. His kids guide now, but I should have asked him.
Well, I'm always threatening. We have a abundant porcupine population up here. I'm just south of the Adirondacks, but anywhere from here up north into the Adirondacks, the porcupine population it's amazing. And I can't break Altai. She thinks she's going to win the next round every time. So I'm always threatening to find, the best porcupine recipes and take up eating porcupine because they're everywhere. And I'm sick of that wrestling match, getting the quills out or bring her to the vet, which I've had to do.
Have you?
I've only had to do that once, yeah.
I've knock on wood. I've yet to have that incident with my short hairs, but I know I'm bound to it's bound to happen, and there's nothing I'm going to be able to do it. They're I shouldn't say that. I don't know. I'm working on them at the farm, so I've got got the city house, and I've got my 1 foot out the door, and got some acreage outside of the city now, and back in Wisconsin. So really kind of happy about that, but get a place to kind of hang out with the dogs. And so every evening we're out there and the dogs are out there and the deer come out. It first started, and then off they go chasing deer out of the field. And I'm like, no, this thing has, so we're working on it. I had a standoff the other night between a doe and my little one, who was finally figuring out that if she takes the stealth approach, she can actually get a little closer to these things.
Which isn't good.
No, it's not. But I was able to hold her off. At least she didn't leave our yard up there, and she didn't chase the deer off the field, which was a good thing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's kind of counterintuitive be running deer off the field.
No, of course. Yeah. I don't know. I think we'll be doing some deer hunting as well, some whitetail hunting up here, and that's about it. As I mentioned, I might get to hunt with Edgar over in Vermont. I just talked to Tony Jones. He has a podcast, The Reverend Hunter.
I haven't heard that one.
It's
There's
good.
so
He's
many.
a theologian. There's so many. He's a theologian and, a former pastor. I think he's going to be a pastor again now. I think he just took a job as a teaching pastor.
Sure.
And led an interesting life, wrote a bunch of interesting books, and he had me on, and he's going to be at that same conference. So I told him he had to come out with us too. So might be a bunch of some podcasters and writers chasing grouse in Vermont.
I was very tempted to go. I'm part of the same organization.
Sure.
Or at least a member. And
sure.
So Edgar was like, yeah, you should come out. And it's just where it falls for timing. And then with kind of the whole COVID scenario and my wife, it's more the vacation time that she has available to her. And yeah, we even have friends out in Vermont, and it was a very tough decision to decide not going to happen this year.
Yeah, we've made a bunch of difficult decisions. Some have been made for us, but yeah, I haven't traveled like I would have otherwise. And yeah, it's tough. We only have so many years that we can hunt.
My folks have pretty much. Well, I'm the only one this far north. My brother's higher elevation, colder out in Colorado, but the rest of the family's down in Florida, and I didn't go this year, and that was the first time I have not gone to Florida. And normally I try to get, at least 10 days of fishing on my Florida fishing license. So
can you give me 30 seconds? I think my wife is moving furniture. All right. I'm back.
No problem. Right. I've learned to use noise reduction software on Audacity many times because of the way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I'm out on the back porch, so you might get cicadas in the background, but that's all right for an outdoors.
Oh, it's
podcast.
Great. I try to get out and do kind of on location stuff once in a while, and it worked great if there's no wind.
Oh yeah.
That wind's a killer, man.
Yeah. I don't know if you've encountered the hard rooms yet. That's a challenge where you go in, you interview somebody, they have a lot to say, and the sound's bouncing everywhere, so you get like triple echo going on. Oh my gosh.
I've had a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But I will say, when I started the podcast, it was kind of the height of COVID, so I've only done maybe a half a dozen kind of face-to-face interviews.
Yeah.
So I'm this summer I had a couple and got a couple more lined up this fall as kind of things are resembling a little bit more normalcy. So but yeah, I was actually up interviewing a guy in northern Wisconsin, and in this old historic, like 110-year-old bar, and a small little shack on the river, basically, with about 8 bar stools. And he converted it over to a rod building studio, and he builds fly rods and custom conventional rods. And it had some of the best acoustics I've ever heard.
Wow, cool. You should start asking him if you can record there, just meet people there.
Oh, it's a very nostalgic place. He's building, basically a kind of a one-piece 8, 9, 10, and 12 weight musky fly rod.
Yeah.
On the banks of the Chippewa River, which is historic in Wisconsin. The lore and stuff with Louis Spray and Cal Johnson and these stories about world record muskies, and so it's just you got the old Liney's bar sign, and it's just a super nostalgic place.
Oh,
yeah, it'd be really nice to have that as my podcast studio.
There you go. There you go. Just start moving in. Are you? I know you got to get going, but as a Wisconsin guy, are you a Gordon McQuarrie guy? Have you read his work?
I'm not as a seasoned as of a reader as I would like to be. I have, but I wouldn't be able to pull much out.
Sure. The all that stuff that Gordon McQuarrie wrote, it's all the books are they're collections of his articles basically, but it's the stories of the old duck hunters. But it deals a lot with fishing and a lot with hunting and upland birds and prairie chickens and everything else in Wisconsin. But I know of all the historic Wisconsin locales from his writing. Oh, Wisconsin is sacred to me because of him, because of his experiences there.
My wife just gave me a book, and I don't think I have it on my desk down here. Oh, it's upstairs in my garage. Now, I'm going to have to go look after we get done here, because I think it is his book. It's like stories. It's a compilation of, it's called like Stories of an Old Duck Hunter or something like that. And
that's I think a book about him as much as or a collection of his stuff. But anyways, yeah, you're going to love it. Read about him.
I started reading, I think I read the first or second story in there, and it was good. I read a second one and then got pulled away.
Of course. Yeah.
It's tough. I don't know. Life with two dogs and running a couple different businesses. I even told myself earlier this year, like, turn off the TV, just put a book on your nightstand and read. And I've got my John Garrett copy of Trout Bum, and that when I told myself that was in the beginning of trout season, it's still there. And
right.
I didn't finish it.
right. Yeah.
I do read a different book. But that's about the man upstairs, and I try to get that in as much as possible. But my pleasure reading over the last couple of years has really declined, and I really wish I would get more into it. But you guys, you got great podcasts like you.
Yeah. And the good thing about podcasting is you can be cleaning gear or
driving,
cleaning kennels or whatever, driving, and still tune in.
Yeah, that's really the beauty of it, is you can multitask, and you might not get it all, but I listen to a lot of them while I drive, and I can't read at that point. So it's exactly. It's give and take, and there's value added somewhere. So I'm going to have to dig into that book.
All right.
So what do you got?
Let me know.
What do you got coming up on your podcast?
Let's see. On my podcast, we're putting out Edgar. Hopefully, if today is Thursday, hopefully Edgar, it will be coming out on Saturday. His next episode. I'm talking to a guy tomorrow morning, Raymond Bunn, out of Silva, North Carolina, and he's a gunsmith and Winchester Model 12 guy.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to talking to him. He's I connected with him through another past guest, that David Joy, who was an author.
Okay.
Lives in that area. So I'm looking forward to talking to him, and, anyone who'll talk to me. That's what I do. If they're talking about hunting in any in-depth way, I'll talk to them.
That's awesome, man. I wish kind of a lot of my guests have been mostly Midwestern. So there's always kind of like hey, we should try to get together for grouse season, but
no,
it's probably not happening between me and you unless I'm going out east, or you end up having another reason to be back in the Midwest here. So,
well, I might call you up if I'm making it out to Wisconsin, because I've never hunted Wisconsin, but I came up reading all about it. So at some point I got to get out. If I get out to Wisconsin, though, I got to be in a duck blind, because that stuff, that the the stories about bluebills alone, really just beautiful Gordon McQuarrie stories that, got me through times when I couldn't be hunting. I could at least read about
it. I could probably hook you up with a couple guys that hunt on the Bay of Green Bay for divers.
All right.
You ever done any of the layout boat stuff?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
it seems hardcore though.
Oh yeah,
it seems pretty challenging.
Oh, I remember the first time I did it. This guy I knew, Nick, he had like a 16-foot with like a 40 horse and just a side console on the boat for steering.
Yeah.
And we load 2 frickin' layout boats in this thing. And I swear he had 500 decoys and 3 guys. And here we go out in the Bay of Green Bay in November, right? I'm like, where is the life jacket?
Exactly.
And
exactly.
He had these decoys on lines, and we basically set up like this big square of decoys in lines. And I'm looking at this going, what duck is going to think that this is a set of, just like,
yeah, right.
And then you're in the middle of this thing in this boat, and you're just laying there, and it's, you're right, like level with the water. And all of a sudden the boat you came in, they take off and they leave you.
Oh,
and you're just there. And it's just out in the middle of the bay, and it's a weird feeling, but wow, they just start flying in from all over, and it's crazy.
And if the wind picks up, that's probably pretty good for your prayer life, right? You probably it's a real good time.
I actually that trip, he had some motor issues, and we were like 8 miles north of the landing in the bay, and the bay is kind of skinny, and then it widens out, and the weather wasn't that bad, but the motor problem. So he ended up having to drive us like to shore. We basically got out of the boat in somebody's house, walked into the road, and started walking. His old man ended up picking us up, but it was quite the experience. The first time I ever went out on the layout boat, but it's a really interesting hunt, and I do know a couple guys that have some pretty decent rigs over there, and they like taking guys out. So if you do make it back, I might be able to help you out with those bluebills.
I'll take you up on it, but you haven't sold me well with the motor problems and the.
No, then Nick's not the guy I'd hook you up with.
Okay.
No, there's honestly some really good diver duck hunting, even on smaller bodies of water.
Yeah,
a lot of bluebills come down and goldeneyes come down, and you can get some pretty good shooting in.
Yeah. That's I know I've had sport. As a young man, I've hunted sea duck with borrowed kayak and borrowed decoys, where the retrieve seemed like I could have died. It's I'm in the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm out there going after the scoter in a kayak with a shotgun. And I think I'm past the point where I'm concerned about my life, anymore. But certainly, if it's a tradition, I'm in. I want to do that.
Yeah, I did a lot of dumb stuff when I was young. I try not to do too much dumb stuff anymore.
Yeah.
I wear safety harness in the tree stand now. They're not quite as high anymore.
Exactly.
They all add up.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just out putting that adhesive, rough sandpaper grip tape stuff on my, on one of my stands recently, going, I'm going to fall off of this thing. I got to put some more grippy stuff on there. So, never would have done that 20 years ago.
No, you tree stand. I don't. Give me a rope and just tie myself to the tree. I actually fell out of a tree stand. Oh, geez, I think it was 16. and it was fairly high, and I rolled right out of it. And no cuts, no bumps, no bruises, no nothing.
Wow.
And just amazing kind of experience. And then my old man actually had an ATV accident and broke his neck, and
oh my gosh,
kind of had a Christopher Reeves injury with C4, C5.
Oh my gosh.
How's
he doing?
He's walking. Yeah. He lives vertical.
Yeah.
He's got vertical paralyzation. So, and so horizontal, I mean, like Christopher Reeves, everything horizontally from that injury down wasn't working. My father has a good side and a bad side. So he's, bless the people at Craig Hospital out in Colorado. They work miracles. I'll tell you that. He went in a chair and he came out walking. So,
wow.
Yeah. Real, but anyways, ever since that incident, it woke me up to a lot of the dumb stuff I've done, and how you can continue to still do dumb things and end up maybe not as lucky as your old man. So that's when I started putting lifelines in all my tree stands, and I clip in the ground, and I'm tied in all the way up now. There's no reason to
I'm right there with you.
Have dumb accidents when there's a $30 piece of safety equipment.
Yeah. And at this point, I'd feel, I'm 52. I'd feel stupid if I wasn't clipped in, if people had to come get me and broke my hip or some foolish thing like that. Even, something, I'd just be so embarrassed.
Yeah.
with the people telling me, they have you can just clip in. They have harnesses. They're comfortable.
Well, and I don't know. It sounds like your son's kind of finally coming of age, but I was hunting by myself for a long while, and nobody's coming to look for me very soon. So,
Exactly.
I don't want to be left out there with all those bears.
And 40-pound bobcats out there. You don't know what could happen to you.
Exactly. Well, hey, David, I had just an absolute pleasure chatting with you tonight. I'd love to have you back on and kind of continue getting to know you
so much.
And stuff.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. We'll make sure if you come on, we'll have you on the Wild Huntsman as well. We'll get you on and continue to blather at each other.
Swap a few hunting stories.
Exactly. Yeah,
so,
exactly right.
Anyways, I'll give you a chance to quick plug for the Wildhuntsman Podcast. Where can they find you?
The Wild Huntsman Podcast is everywhere. So wherever you get your podcasts, it's available. If you're not podcast proficient and you're listening to this, you can go to our website, which is wildhuntsman.com, and you can listen and download podcasts right from there as well.
Awesome.
No.
Well, again, thank you very much.
Thanks.
I appreciate all the time this evening.
Thanks for having me on, Brian. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Amaazen Outdoors. Please join your local conservation effort. Ruffed Grouse Society, Quail Forever, Pheasants Forever, Whitetail Unlimited, Minnesota, Wisconsin Bear Hunters Association, whatever it is that's fighting for the animals that you want to hunt, but also fighting for your rights as a hunter. Make sure you join those organizations, step up, get involved this fall. The season is here, and it's time to support those groups. Please like, share, subscribe. Most of all, leave a comment, a review, and we'll see you out in the woods, man. I'm headed up to tag a bear right now and get my dogs ready for grouse opener this weekend. So hope you all have some success, shoot straight, and most of all, take a kid, take your neighbor, take a friend, get some people that aren't into the outdoors this season. Good luck.